All right. So first things first, like I always do, clap if you are sitting or standing next to someone beautiful. Even if you're by yourself, at the shadow. So everybody has a reason to clap. I want to thank all of you for being here at this reading. Citizen as viewed through the eyes of Black Panther, brought to you by Malvern Books and a part of the big read to celebrate the release of. And I'm always, is this the second release of the book itself, right?
It's had multiple releases.
It's had multiple releases.
It only gets updated when pages 134 gets updated.
Yeah.
So it makes sense.
Well, what's amazing, okay, so the book itself is entitled Citizen, an American Lyric by poet, playwright, essayist, and whatever else she hasn't done yet, Claudia Rankine. And I myself, I chided, I literally stood in the mirror and was like, you should know better. When I found out about this book, when Joe and Becky had approached me about hosting it, and when I took it home, more than how powerful the book was, I was struck by how familiar it felt. The book itself is important on so many levels. I mean, you know, there's the obvious issue of race, but the book tackles race. The book itself tackles race in a way that I won't say has never been addressed before, but in a way that seldom gets addressed on a human level. What we fail to realize about the whole race issue is that there's less humanity now. You know, we don't look to each other as people as much as we should, as much as the ideal is praised and lauded or what have you. There's a reality in this nation, and the book very much brings that to life. So with me today are two very good friends of mine, two local writers, Daria Howard and Kelene Blake-Fallon. You'll be hearing from them later. And what we decided to do is read sections of the book that that stood out to each of us, and why those particular portions had relevance. And then after that, we will open up with not so much a Q&A, but a discussion on the book itself, because it'd be a Q&A if Claudia was here. Claudia is not here, but her message very much is. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about her work, what she brought forth for us, and then we'll go ahead and dig further and discuss. Has anybody else seen Black Panther? Not seen Black Panther yet? Okay, so thank you. Okay, I didn't know if anybody else. If you haven't, if you're watching this and you haven't, number one, welcome to Earth. But forgive yourself. Start the healing now. Start the healing now. And while we're talking about Black Panther, for obvious reasons, huge fan. But for less than obvious reasons, I very much love the book on so many different levels, because while yes, they play by the rules of a comic book film, at the same time, they give you so much depth, so much energy, so much emotion, so much more than your average comic book movie has. What Ryan Coogler and everybody else that worked to create the film did was create a very human movie, where so many different people could relate to the subject matter itself. There was so much, at one point it almost felt kind of Shakespearean, especially the part towards the end. And in case somebody who's watching this right now hasn't seen it yet, spoilers, so I'm not going to tell you. But yeah, I'm talking to the camera just in case they might want me to tell them, and I'd be rude. So, but what I will say is that what I've told people is that the movie itself can be seen through a very human lens. And friends of mine who either aren't Black or, you know, non-POCs or people of color, as we say, have asked me what I thought about the movie, and you know, have asked me, you know, am I allowed to go see it since I'm not Black? I'm like, do you have oxygen in your chest? And they're like, yes. No, I've heard this. People are like, you know, I mean, am I, you know, should I, if there's a lot of Black people, should I just let them have their time? And I'm like, it's a film. It's a human film. It's a comic book movie that is so much more than that. But the fact that you asked is indicative. So what we're going to do today is we're going to open up with we're gonna have we're gonna read the passages from the book, and then we're gonna open up with a discussion about that, and then we're gonna open up with a discussion about Black Panther itself. And at that time, we'll have Q&A. We'll have actually a discussion. So there's no wrong questions. There's no wrong answers. So I'll go ahead and start off with the selection I chose. So my selection was regarding the incident with Rutgers University, with the women's basketball team, and the comments that Don Imus had made at the time. And it's funny because what strikes you most about Citizen, an American Lyric, is that as an African American, there are these moments in the book that basically strike out, that strike a chord with you, because you can remember the last time someone made a glib comment, either because they were comfortable or comfortable around you, about what made you different from who they were. And you didn't know how to react to it. A bit of you wanted to get indignant and be like, how dare you say that, blah, blah, blah. But you're like, okay, well, you automatically go through the paces. Did they mean that? How were they raised or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And you go home and you kick yourself for not turning into, the Incredible Hulk and like, don't you ever say that again. I'm a person, I'm a human being, I'm not an animal, I'm a man. All those opportunities that you missed, and you wonder, and you let them build up, and that frustration starts. But as you read the book, through this lens that she's created in this book, you find yourself, POC or otherwise, relating to it, understanding, I would dare say, she could, in the book, I won't say it's, because I can't speak for everybody, but I feel like in the book, she creates an opportunity, I feel, if it's safe to say, she creates an opportunity for you to understand, to understand what it's like for one human that doesn't look like you, what they go through. And it establishes the connection. It makes it a human issue. Race is in and of itself a human issue, and it doesn't get discussed as such. And that's what she did with this book here. I'll read a portion of it. Okay. You are rushing to meet a friend, and you're rushing to meet a friend in the distant neighborhood of Santa Monica. This friend says, as you walk towards her, you are late, you nappy-headed hoe. What did you say? You ask, though you have heard every word. This person has never before referred to you in this presence, never code switched in this manner. What did she say? She doesn't, perhaps physically cannot repeat what she just said. Maybe the content of her statement is relevant, and she only means to signal the stereotype of Black people time by employing what she perceives to be Black people language. Maybe she's jealous of whoever kept you and wants to suggest you are nothing or everything to her. Maybe she wants to have a belated conversation about Don Imus and the women's basketball team he insulted with this language. You don't know. You don't know what she means. You don't know what the response she expects from you, and nor do you care. For all your previous understandings, suddenly incoherence feels violent. You both experience this cut, which she keeps insisting is a joke. One stuck in her throat, and unlike any other injury, you watch it rupture along its suddenly exposed suture. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar with the incident itself, some years ago, a sports broadcaster by the name of Don Imus referred to the Rutgers University basketball team, the majority of whom were Black women, as jigaboos or nappy-headed hoes. And of course, as soon as word got out, it set ablaze a firestorm, and Don Imus was made to come forth and apologize in front of the Rutgers team. Now, when I attended the reading with Claudia Rankine last night, she showed two images of this picture. I wish I could pass it around, but it shows 5 members of the Rutgers team in front of a big red R. And as you can see their discontent staring at Don Imus as he makes his apology. But what's interesting, and I didn't realize this until she showed the original version of the photograph, was that while you see the 5 women next to the red R, what you don't see, and what she showed in the original photograph, was the R removed and 2 more members of the Rutgers basketball team. 2 more women, one of which was white, and visibly upset, angered at the sight of Don Imus as she stared over that with her fellow teammates. And the point Rankine was making is that while yes, the emotions were there, at the same time that they only showed the black women upset as if this only affected them. Whereas this woman that looked visibly upset in the picture was an example of the point she was trying to make about racism as a humanity issue. This human being was upset that her fellow teammates were insulted, were embarrassed by this man, and she stood by them. And she wondered what the result. The point she made was she wondered what the result would have been if they had shown the entire picture of all the women upset, standing together. And I myself, as far as that particular section is concerned, I myself have experienced a kind of comfort that some of my friends have had, whereas they will say a phrase to me that, maybe it's a catchphrase that they've heard somebody else, African American, say. Or maybe it's that one word that should really not be said at all. And they assume that because that I'm friends with them, that it gives them sort of a free pass to say the word or what have you. And when I've called them on it, well, y'all say it all the time. They're like, first of all, I'm not y'all. I don't speak for people with the same skin as me. I know that I may represent them in my actions or what have you, but I ask that you not assume that regardless of what you see somebody else do, that it's what everybody does. If I see a woman wearing bright pink shorts walking down the street, I'm not going to assume that every single woman on earth wears bright pink shorts. Not everybody likes pink, nothing personal. But that being said, everybody isn't everybody. And assumptions as such should not be made, and that's why the passage stood out to me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my cell phone because I have a very important intro to make. 1 second. First of all, is everybody doing okay? Yeah. All right, while I'm looking this up and no, I'm not stalling, yes I am. Please do me a favor and put your hands together for the people at Malvern Books. Yeah. It takes a lot to put together events like these. It takes a certain amount of not just teamwork. It takes a certain amount. It takes more than most people have to continue to do what they do for the arts. And I ask that if you haven't been here before, please look around. I wanted to make a special note that during National Poetry Month, all of these books, this is the entire poetry section, Joe? Yeah. So all these books are 20% off for the month of April. So, all right, so our next reader coming up is an artist, a Blackademic, an entrepreneur, a health activist, and a bibliophile. She performs spoken word and poetry at the Neo Soul Poetry Lounge as well as the Austin Poetry Slam. She also organizes and teaches writing workshops. She has been featured on Blavity and represented Austin at the 2015 Southern Pride Poetry Festival in Little Rock, Arkansas, and is known for her delicate yet passionate writing and performance. You can get more information about her blogs and spoken word at KeleneBlake.com. Without further ado, please put your hands together for Kelene Blake-Fallon.
Hi everyone. How are we doing tonight?
Good.
Good?
Good.
All right. So, thank you, Joe B, for the opportunity to read this brilliant work. I've been hearing about Citizen, wait, what year did it come out again? The first time? I think it was, let's see, let me look back. Yeah, that's right. I've been hearing about it since it came out. And one thing, like I saw the cover and it was striking. Who does the cover make you immediately think of? Trayvon Martin.
Trayvon Martin, I'm sorry.
Yes, immediately. So just from that stark, very simple image and cover and the way she chose to present her work, I knew it would be substantial. And so the challenge with it is that no one has been able to really describe what kind of book it is. And now that I've also read it, and I, on the way here, was trying to describe to the driver what kind of book it is, it was fun. Because it just goes to show how this writer is able to channel her work so creatively and outside of the bounds of what is considered the norm, which is important and necessary to assert her own voice, which is not the norm. And so I value that and I appreciate it. Yeah, and of course I identify with a lot of the vignettes, the microaggressions described in this book, and I feel that I felt a breath of, like, I don't know, something delicious, fresh bread, because first of all, many of these stories are very similar to my daily interactions. And then it also, for me as a writer, it reminded me that there are other people, other writers, and other readers who can benefit even from the little everyday understanding of my life and of the lives that I can imagine. So that's important to me as a writer. So I have a couple excerpts, all of it from section 2, because it deals with anger and tennis, two things that I identify with a lot. Hennessy Youngman, aka Jason Musson, whose art thoughts take the form of tutorials on YouTube, educates viewers on contemporary art issues. In one of his many videos, he addresses how to become a successful Black artist, wryly suggesting Black people's anger is marketable. He advises Black artists to cultivate an angry nigger exterior by watching, among other things, the Rodney King video while working. And there's an image on the page of the YouTuber that says, "Be angry," quoting him saying, "Be angry." Youngman's suggestions are meant to expose expectations for Blackness, as well as to underscore the difficulty inherent in any attempt by Black artists to metabolize real rage. The commodified anger his video advocates rests lightly on the surface for spectacle's sake. It can be engaged or played like the race card and is tied solely to the performance of Blackness and not to the emotional state of particular individuals on particular situations. On the bridge between the sellable anger and the artist resides at times an actual anger. Youngman, in his video, doesn't address this type of anger. The anger built up through experience and the quotidian struggles against dehumanization every brown or black person lives simply because of skin color. This is another kind of anger. This other kind of anger in time can prevent rather than sponsor the production of anything except loneliness. You begin to think, maybe erroneously, that this other kind of anger is really a type of knowledge, a type that both clarifies and disappoints. It responds to insults and attempted erasure simply by asserting presence, and the energy required to present, to react, to assert is accompanied by visceral disappointment. A disappointment in the sense that no amount of visibility will alter the ways in which one is perceived. Recognition of this lack might break you apart, or recognition might illuminate the erasure, the attempted erasure triggers. Whether such discerning creates a healthier, if more isolated self, you can't know. In any case, Youngman doesn't speak to this kind of anger. He doesn't say that witnessing the expression of this more ordinary and daily anger might make the witness believe that a person is insane. And insane is what you think one Sunday afternoon, drinking an Arnold Palmer, watching the 2009 Women's US Open semifinal, when brought to full attention by the suddenly explosive behavior of Serena Williams. Serena, in HD, before your eyes, becomes overcome by rage, a rage you recognize and have been taught to hold at a distance for your own good. Serena's behavior on this particular afternoon suggests that all the injustice she has played through all the years of her illustrious career flashes before her, and she decides, finally, to respond to all of it with a string of invectives. Nothing, not even the repetition of negations. No, 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 she employed in a similar situation years before as a younger player at the 2004 US Open, prepares you for this. Oh my God, she's gone crazy, you say to no one. What does a victorious or defeated black woman's body in a historically white space look like? Serena and her big sister Venus brought to mind Zora Neale Hurston's "I feel most colored when I am thrown against a sharp white background." This appropriated line, stenciled on canvas by Glenn Ligon, who used plastic letter stencils, smudging oil sticks, and graphite to transform the words into extractions, seemed to be ad copy for some aspect of life for all black bodies. Hurston's statement has been played out on the big screen by Serena and Venus. They win sometimes. They lose sometimes. They've been injured, they've been happy, they've been sad, ignored, booed mightily. They've been cheered, and through it all, and evident to all, were those people who are enraged they are there at all. Graphite against a sharp white background. For years, you attribute to Serena Williams a kind of resilience appropriate only for those who exist in celluloid. Neither her father, nor her mother, nor her sister, nor Jehovah her God, nor Nike could shield her ultimately from people who felt her black body didn't belong in their court, in their world. From the start, many made it clear Serena would have done better struggling to survive in the two-dimensionality of a Millet painting rather than on their tennis court. Choose her tennis court because it's Serena. Better to put all that strength to work in their fantasy of her working the land, rather than be caught up on the turbulence of our ancient dramas, like a ship fighting a storm in a Turner escape. And I'm going to skip forward. Actually, continue on. The most notorious of Serena's detractors takes the form of Mariana Alves, the distinguished tennis chair umpire. In 2004, Alves was excused from officiating any more matches on the final day of the US Open after she made 5 bad calls against Serena in her quarterfinal matchup against fellow American Jennifer Capriati. The serves and returns Alves called out were landing stunningly unreturned by Capriati, inside the lines. No discerning eyesight needed. Commentators, spectators, television viewers, line judges, everyone could see the balls were good. Everyone apparently except Alves. No one can understand what was happening. Serena, in her denim skirt, her black sneaker boots, and dark mascara, began wagging her finger and saying, "No, no, no," as if by negating the moment, she could propel us back into a legible world. Tennis superstar John McEnroe, given his own keen eye for injustice during his professional career, was shocked that Serena was able to hold it together after losing the match. No one was saying anything explicitly about Serena's black body. You are not the only viewer who thought it was getting in the way of Alves' line of sight. One commentator said he hoped he wasn't being unkind when he stated, "Capriati wins it with the help of the umpires and the line judges." A year later, that match would be credited for demonstrating the need for speedy installation of Hawkeye, the line calling technology that took the seeing away from the beholder. Now the umpire's call can be challenged by replay. However, back then, after the match, Serena said, "I'm very angry and bitter right now. I feel cheated. Shall I go on? I feel robbed." And though you felt outraged for Serena after that 2004 US Open, as the years go by, she seems to put Alves and a lengthening list of her curious calls and oversights against both her and her sister behind her as they happen. Yes, the body has memory. The physical carriage holds more than its weight. The body is the threshold across which each objectionable call passes into consciousness. All the unintimidated, unblinking, and unflappable resilience does not erase the moments lived through, even as we are eternally stupid or everlastingly optimistic, so ready to be inside, among, a part of the games.
Reading not just to talk about the book, but more importantly in honor of Claudia Rankine. So on the chance she does get a chance to do this, does get a chance to view this reading, Ms. Rankine, we thank you for your work, and I'd ask that everybody please give her a warm round of applause. Listening to her, I found myself trying to drill up questions to ask her towards the end of the reading. And just listening to everything she said, all I wanted to do was just further it. I couldn't come up with questions to ask her. And I'm sitting there listening to how relaxed she was when she talked, and that poise that she has. It wasn't an illusion she was giving you, but more of one you were providing yourself, because she was so relaxed in speaking about this topic. Not so she was glib about it, but she was like, y'all already know what's going on. I don't really need to orate or anything like that. You pretty much know what's going on, but she still read from the book in a way that made it come alive, even more than I could attempt to do it justice. So we are very grateful for this work. And I stayed in line And my good friend Charlotte Gullick is here, who is responsible for the big read that is helping this book get. For those of you who don't know, as of last night, last night commenced what was called the big read, where several locations throughout the city of Austin throughout this month will be having readings to celebrate the release of Citizen. And not just to make it all about praising Claudia Rankine, because we all know she deserves it, but more importantly, to help spread the message of why this is important. I was talking with her about the book. I was like, I left my copy at home, I don't have it. She's like, well, grab one off the podium and she'll sign it for you. I was like, oh, the one off the podium. And I ran and I grabbed it and I went over to her and I was like, hello. And Claudia was like, hello. I was like, my name is Joe B and you are officially my favorite aunt. And she smiled and she said, I accept. And she signed the book and I just walked away like, oh, auntie. And I went home and I didn't look at the book until just now. And I realized that she signed it, Joe B, with love from your favorite aunt. And at which point I realized that I could now ascend from this earth onto other places where my adventures may continue now that I'm done here. Okay, but no, back to the book. At this time, we will open up for discussion. There's no wrong question, there's no wrong answer, as the purpose of Citizen was to establish a necessary dialogue, to basically introduce a much needed perspective, to let you see what it's like for another human being to experience maybe something that you haven't. And that's putting it mildly where this book is concerned. So if we have any questions or comments about the book to begin the discussion or anything? Or... Yes, you, intelligent young person in the front with very intelligent glasses and intelligent cheetah print shirt. I respect it.
Like you just said, how you felt when you got the book. That's the same way I felt when I got a book signed. When I got my book, Island Born, signed by Julie
What? That is awesome. That's awesome. Did anybody else have any comments about the book? How many people have read the book so far? Okay. So what did anybody, okay, so somebody, any random hand, what did you take away from the book?
I was really struck by her choice to write it in the second person, so she's not saying, I went into the store, I did this, she's saying, you went into the store.
Yeah.
And different people discussed it and said, you know, it's an invitation into the experience of Blackness, and that most of the sections start out with details that all of us can connect with.
Yeah.
And then it gets towards the bottom or the end of this section, it gets more specific to an experience of racism.
Yeah.
And so some people said it's an invitation, other people said it's so intimate, and I've had other people say it's an intrusion, and students say it's forced empathy. So I think it's a really interesting choice, and I'm very struck by that.
Well, and I find that last part, the forced empathy part, I find that interesting because for some people, empathy is much more involuntary than it is others. And you have those same people who will tell you up and down, you know, that whole, you know, that we are, those who would subscribe to the notion of a post-racial society, you know, which like, it's like what Gandhi said about Western civilization. I think it'll be a good idea one day. It's interesting when they use the words forced empathy, because when it comes to humanity, empathy is something that should never be forced. It should be something that is automatic. I shouldn't have to jump through hoops or create some kind of special illusion or perspective for you to see what it's like through the eyes of another human being. Like, for example, she was talking about how, remember she was talking about how somebody came up to her at the end of the night and was like, at the end of one reading, was like, well, how do I help Black people in their plight and their struggle and everything? How do I help you with what's going on and everything? Because I want to do more. How can I help you? And she was like, well, actually, I'm fine. There's nothing wrong with me right now. I'm not sick or anything like that. And I got her point as to say that You are a human being on earth. There are other human beings on earth along with you. So long as there is so much one human being who isn't treated to the same standard of life that you are, who isn't seen with the same amount of respect, who isn't treated as you are treated, then you are to say something. And you are to speak as best you can. I'm not saying kick down the door every time someone doesn't use a proper pronoun, which is very much a thing and very much important. But whatever you can do, like the adage says, if you see something, say something. You know, and maybe we won't all get it done overnight, but initiate it. Let the children see us taking this stand now, so that way it becomes instinctual for them. So when it comes to forced empathy, you gotta wonder in this case how oxymoronic that sounds. You know what I mean? Forced empathy, not in this case, not only sounds oxymoronic, but to hear someone say it, it denotes someone who doesn't want to do the work. You know, because when someone comes and asks you, like if I as a man, you know, I mean, with respect to pronouns and everything, if I was to go to anyone that is not of the same, if I was to go to anyone that is not cisgendered hetero male and say, you know what, as a woman, it's hard out here for y'all. What do I do to help make things easier for y'all? In other words, number one, stop asking one woman like she's every woman. Number two, anytime you see a woman not treated like a human, say something. If you are not a POC, if you are not an African American, if you see someone if you see either one of those not treated to the same standard of life that you yourself are accustomed to, say something. And yes.
I wanted to add to that, say something.
Mm-hmm.
Say something to the person who's actually doing the oppressive thing.
Right.
Because just walking up on the person who is experiencing the issue
Mm-hmm.
and just gushing about how bad it was and is not making them feel better.
No.
It's forcing them to stay in that moment when we've learned to, whatever coping mechanisms we've had to use, staying in the moment and listening to you complain or talk about how horrible it was
Right.
is not one of those. So when you say something, I want to point out, it's about say something to the person who is committing the act.
That's committing the offense, yes.
Yes.
Okay, and I agree with you because to do the opposite makes that person who's just been offended even more of a spectacle. And to go after the person who's been offended, and Kelene, correct me if I'm wrong, it kind of even suggests that the person going, like say for example, if I see someone insulting someone else or being disrespectful or making a comment off the cuff, and I go to that person who just got talked to, oh, that's so horrible, are you okay? That's me getting my good deed of the day points. It's not the same as going to that person who said it and saying, hey man, that's not cool. This person has a name, how about you call them that? You know, how about doing that from now on? And I won't stick up for it, but in this day and age of social media, and it's not social media's fault, in this day and age where we'd rather see each other through a screen, you know, through a like or something like that, there's far more opportunity nowadays for people to be human or humane or see as such. You know, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like we tend to, this is much more of a two-dimensional eye nowadays. You know what I mean? That we'd rather, that no, I'm not like that, it's just me. And that's another thing that I've noticed too. A lot of times people are like, well, you know, I'm not like that. I'm not one of those people. I don't talk like that or whatever. And in my opinion, if you have no right to call yourself one of the good guys, if you're not going to stand up to the bad ones, you know, which furthers Kelene's point even more. Yes.
I also think that sometimes people don't know what to do, and so they expect someone who has been offended to make them feel better about the situation.
Yeah.
And so just to support Kelene's point that, you know, talk to the people who have said the thing. And I mean, it does take courage, but that's one of the things Claudia Rankine said today at the Ann Richard School.
Mm-hmm.
Someone asked her, like, do you feel like the world can be better? She says, I feel like the world can be better when I speak up.
Right.
It will not stand.
Yeah.
So I do think that oftentimes, speaking sweeping generalizations, that sometimes white folks will go to people of color, African Americans, and say, it makes me feel better about the city.
Right.
Residents.
Right.
And I'll keep saying the same thing in a circle, so I'll stop now.
Your two-dimensional eye comment, I really like that. But that, I just wanted to say that also reminded me, that brought it back to you're bringing up the second person. And it's, I think, Joe, I think Claudia Rankine's choice to use the second person seems related to your idea of this two-dimensional eye, right? It's, if a reader is that two-dimensional eye, maybe they need that invasive view, or maybe they need that thing that they see as forcing empathy on them.
Yeah.
Like you said, if they see it as forcing empathy, clearly they need it. You know, so I just want to say I really liked your phrasing there.
Okay. All right, so do anybody else have any comments or questions or whatever before we move on? All right. So just checking. Everybody in this room has seen Black Panther, because I don't want to spoil it for anybody. Okay. So has anybody seen Black Panther less than 3 times? Shame. Begin the healing. You in the back. Begin the healing. Wrong. You. What? I'm watching you, cheetah print shirt. I'm watching you. I was just playing. The film itself, a beautiful film, a powerful film, a comic book movie in every sense of the word. The film itself had a very strong message. I think even stronger than a lot of people even realize. One of the things one of the things I noticed were friends coming up to me and asking, was it their place to go into a theater full of black people and watch Black Panther at the same time as them? And I'm like, if you paid your ticket, you go. That's science. What is I try to understand the reasoning or what have you, but you're sitting in a theater to watch the film. But we think about the world of Wakanda itself. Everybody knows that the world of Wakanda is very much fictional, that it exists in the comic books, but in and of itself, it is a world where for centuries, 5 nations of black people have coexisted without any of the issues that we as African Americans face. The character Killmonger, who, no matter what anybody says, can't really be seen as a villain, totally. Who really can't be seen as a villain, made some points that regardless of how utopian Wakanda looked, that the idea itself fell short in light of the fact that there were people all around the world who had suffered outside of that nation. And I wanted to basically just throw it out into the floor and have a discussion about the parallels between the fictional world of Wakanda and the world that we live in now as African Americans. More specifically, I'll think about the point Killmonger made about how he wanted to go out into the world and try to bring Wakanda to them or what have you, versus let me stop because I tend to ramble. How, on a scale, in your opinion, how close would, and I don't know if I could really, on a scale of 1 to 10, how close do you feel that a country like Wakanda could actually exist in this day and age?
So, I love you, Joe,
Yeah.
but I'm not going to answer your question
Yeah, and
because I wanted to make a comment.
yes.
And y'all can answer the question if you want.
Yeah.
Remember the question for after my comment. So, one parallel I immediately see
Yeah.
based on just your experience, recounting that experience of your white friends who mean well,
Yeah.
and want to give people the space to enjoy something, however. How they're not knowing or their reluctance to go view, and it's not even a black-owned film, but what is clearly a black film,
Yeah.
just reflects on just the wider societies, or especially wider societies of well-meaning white people, who think films with black people are for black people, and books written by people of color are for people of color. And therefore, most of the time I don't think the reasoning is that they want to let people enjoy it. It's because they don't see themselves in it.
Yeah.
But that is how you support that is how you learn empathy, actually.
Yeah.
Is by learning other people's stories. And that is how you also support artists of color. Like, you're using your money to buy their tickets. You're gonna have only the 13 or 25, whatever percentage it happens to be. Or you're gonna have the 7% of Austin black people be the only ones supporting black artists here in Austin.
Mm-hmm.
They need just as much support as any white artists here, but
Yep.
the white artists are going to get a lot more white people feeling comfortable coming to their thing,
Right.
because they feel comfortable and they assume that anything by anyone, black artist, person of color artist, indigenous artist, is for that small group. And that is a very impractical thing.
Right.
We, around the world, because I'm not from here, we have been forced to watch your movies and read your books and consume your art as the standard
Mm-hmm.
for the whole time of our, post-colonialism, colonialism. Lots of time, for a long time, for hundreds of years. The least you could do is engage with art that isn't white people's art. We have to actively seek out our art. But now there's a lot more. And it's on the big screen, and it's breaking records, and it's in books like this,
Mm-hmm.
and in front of your face, and on these walls. Make sure your bookshelf is not like your friends list, is not like your co-worker circle. Make sure there's some diversity,
Yeah.
more diversity than Austin, Texas, more diversity than what you're comfortable with, at least in what you engage with and consume, because art affects how people think and how people feel, and it helps people grow,
Yep.
and it teaches, in that way it's a teacher. And if you're gonna have a teacher, to make you an actual better person.
Yes.
Done.
Yes. Thank you very much. And that is how you say what I was trying to say. Without inserting a size 13 wide foot within your mouth, right there. But no, she raises a very, very, very salient point. Like, for example, right now in Austin, the population of African Americans is what, 8.1?
No,
I think it was
it's 7.65.
7.65.
No, or lower.
Right. And if only those 6 to 7 point, 6 or 7, less than 8, if only those people if only those of us went to go see Black Panther, you'd see a notable difference in ticket sales. Despite the fact that many of us went to go see it more than 3 times. One of my friends went to go see it 7. And he's rude. Jeff, yeah. Yeah, rude. If you're watching this, Jeff, rude. I've only seen it twice. He knows my struggle. He knows I just can't go. But
That's an investment.
the point you just made, is exemplified in the fact that right now Black Panther is one of the top 5 selling movies of all time. There have been, and I have made note of the comments that some people have made. Oh, it's only a black movie. I went in there was only black people. I only saw black people on screen. I couldn't identify. If you couldn't identify, then the problem's not with the film. The problem's with you. If you couldn't watch a story with people that were not the same color as you and enjoy the movie, if you couldn't watch it and enjoy the movie, then the problem wasn't with the subject matter, the substance, or whatever, because it was laden with both. But the problem is a myopic, if that's the right word for it, view of things, and on an artistic level at that, which is interesting on different levels. But thank you very much, Kelene.
So I think I'm going to say what you said in a slightly different way. But I also, it's a white supremacist response to say I can't identify with this.
Yeah.
They only have actors in it that don't look like me. And I think that for me to recognize how surround sound white supremacy is. It's in art, it's in books, it's in television, I don't think of myself as a white supremacist, but I live in a white supremacist society. And for me to just really try to pull that out, and I think a lot like Citizen, the book is trying to get at implicit bias and how it's built into our systems.
Right. Very much so. Very much so. Do we have any other comments or questions? Okay, let me see what time it is. I think that's it for the evening, Joe. I think we should probably wrap it up. Everybody, please do me a favor. Please give it up to Joe Brasher. Becky is out saving the universe right now. She can't be with us. She's on a very top secret mission. She can't tell you, or she'd have to give you a mean look. She won't kill you. That's just not her way. But I want to thank everybody for attending tonight. I want to thank Malvern Books for the opportunity. I want to thank Charlotte Good with the ACC for all the work that you're doing in helping bringing the readings to life throughout the month of April and throughout the city. Those of you who get a chance to on ACC's website, I think is there anywhere online they can easily go and see?
So I handed out the programs from last night that have a list of events, but also there's a big read ATX on Facebook, which has events.
Okay.
So next Saturday we're doing a poem box building project in Public Square.
Excellent.
Resistencia Books is having a book discussion Monday night.
Okay.
The Cepeda branch, the library is having a discussion on 12.
Okay.
There are about 17 other things.
Yeah.
So please come.
No problem at all. All right, so like I said, for more information, if you didn't grab the flyer, please get one from Charlotte. And last but not least, in case she is watching, Ms. Rankine, we thank you very much for your work, and thank you for being my favorite auntie. And thank you all, and have a good night.
Damn.